Welcome, future educators. If you're a university student gearing up for your Promeday and Pro-Defly practicums in English and French language teaching, well, this explainer is designed exactly for you. Today, we're going to unpack the fundamental tools you literally have to initiate your very own research in the second language classroom. We're moving way beyond just standing up and teaching a lesson. We're going to explore how you can analyze, understand, and ultimately improve your whole teaching environment. So let's dive right in. Okay, let's take a quick look at our roadmap for today. We've got 6 stops. 1. The value of context. 2. Defining qualitative research. 3. Exploring the black box. 4. Method, design, and techniques. 5. Classroom instruments. And finally, 6. The evolution towards mixed methods.
Section 1. The value of context, and moving beyond just the numbers.
Now, you might be wondering, why do we even need qualitative research in the first place? Well, we first have to look at a pretty fundamental problem in global education policy. See, for decades, evaluators heavily prioritized quantitative data. They looked at test scores, attendance rates, demographic statistics, all trying to answer one primary question: what works? But here is the absolutely critical question I want you to ask yourselves as future language teachers. While numbers can easily show us what is happening, do they actually tell us how or why it works? Usually no. Without qualitative data to contextualize those findings, the everyday messy human realities of your classroom remain totally obscured.
And this brilliantly illustrates the difference in those paradigms. Historically, the quantitative approach, which is rooted in psychology, has been absolutely phenomenal at measuring outcomes and proving what works on a macro scale. But the qualitative approach, that's rooted deeply in sociology and anthropology. Its real superpower is contextualization. It answers the how and why. And what's really fascinating here is that modern educational research is actually undergoing a massive shift right now, slowly adopting these qualitative social science methods to truly understand the complex reality of student learning.
Section 2. Defining qualitative research as an inductive approach. All right, let's move from the high-level theory down to the practice. Qualitative inquiry isn't just one single tool you pull out of a box. It's a really rich, diverse family of traditions. So depending on what you want to discover in your Pro-Met or Pro-Defly practicums, you might use ethnography to study your classroom culture, or maybe phenomenology to understand a specific student's lived experience of speaking a new language. You could even use case studies to deeply analyze a single learner's progress over the whole semester. The point is, you have a vast toolkit at your disposal. But what actually unites all these different traditions? Well, it's their inductive nature. Unlike quantitative researchers who often start with a super rigid hypothesis that they're trying to prove, qualitative researchers build theory from the ground up. You don't start your practicum forcing preconceived facts onto your English or French classroom. Instead, you construct meaning directly from the lived experiences, the needs, and the perspectives of your stakeholders, your students, your fellow teachers, the community. You're capturing reality exactly as it unfolds in front of you. Section 3. Exploring the black box that is the second language classroom. Now, what's really interesting about this is a metaphor from linguist Leo Van Leer. He describes the language classroom as a black box. And honestly, if you've ever stood in front of 30 energetic teenagers, you know exactly what he means, right? It is an incredibly complex, kind of chaotic source of data. You've got different personalities, shifting social dynamics, varying motivation levels, different historical backgrounds, all just colliding in one room. So, as a teacher-researcher, you're essentially a detective. Your job is to step inside that difficult environment, pry open the black box, and systematically investigate what's actually happening in there. In the academic literature, the goal of this specific kind of investigation is often called action research. Basically, this means you are transforming your daily, everyday teaching activity right into the center of your attention. You aren't just delivering a lesson plan and crossing your fingers, hoping for the best. You are actively observing the results of that lesson to figure out what can be improved, adapted, or just completely thrown out to achieve better outcomes for your students. You are simultaneously the teacher and the investigator. Section 4. Method, design, and techniques for structuring your practicum research. Let's move to the next phase and see how this builds. How do you actually organize this investigation? Well, it builds a very specific logical chain across 3 concepts. Step 1 is the method. This refers to your entire research process. It's the how of your study. and it's determined entirely by what you want to investigate. Step 2 is the design. Derived from your method, this establishes your concrete procedure. It bridges your method and your actual data collection based on your unique context. And finally, step 3 represents your techniques. These are the specific, concrete instruments you'll literally pick up to gather the data.
But hold on, before you pick up a single instrument, you absolutely need a plan. The literature provides a pretty crucial checklist, 9 foundational questions you have to answer before initiating any study on individual variables, like student attitudes or motivation. You have to clearly define your theme, the specific problem, your exact objectives, your starting hypotheses, and of course your participants. Answering these questions first, that's your roadmap. It's going to save you from getting completely lost once you actually open up that black box.
Section 5. Instruments for the classroom and gathering second language acquisition data.
So the most frequent techniques used in classroom research are direct observation, interviews, and focus groups. You might also use audio or video recordings of classroom interactions, which are super helpful. However, and this is absolutely crucial, our sources offer a vital reminder about rigorous research standards here. Any information you record is strictly for academic study, and when creating your transcriptions, you must anonymize the data. Never, ever use the real names of your students. Respecting privacy isn't just a friendly suggestion, it is a foundational requirement of doing good research.
To give you a super concrete example of a specialized instrument, let's look at MOLT. This stands for the Motivational Orientation of Language Teaching. Basically, it's an observational scheme specifically designed to collect qualitative data on the motivational strategies used by teachers and how students respond to them. Variables like motivation and attitude, they're totally invisible. You can't just easily observe them by casually glancing at a student. So tools like MOLD are a real game changer because they help you systematically measure and understand those hidden variables right in the middle of the learning process. Finally, Section 6, the evolution towards mixed methods and seeing the classroom as a complex system.
And this brings us to exactly where the future of language teaching research is heading. Modern research has evolved so dramatically because it no longer views the classroom as this static, predictable environment. Instead, as the literature points out, language learning is a complex, dynamic, and totally non-linear phenomenon. It behaves exactly like a natural ecosystem, highly adaptable and constantly shifting. Because of this reality, relying on just one single metric or instrument makes it pretty much impossible to capture all the intricate connections between all the different moving parts of your classroom.
So, the crucial point here is this. Qualitative and quantitative methods, they are for sure not enemies. In fact, the whole future of research lies in something called methodological triangulation. That's really just a fancy way of saying we need to combine the qualitative and quantitative paradigms. Using observational charts right alongside statistical questionnaires gives you a much wider prism to look through. It yields the highest scientific rigor and allows you to reflect deeply from multiple perspectives, which ultimately empowers you as both a teacher and an investigator. And that just about wraps up our explainer. You now have the foundational knowledge of exactly how qualitative research contextualizes data, why it's so vital for education, and how to structure it from the ground up. So my question to you as you step into your English and French teaching practicums is this. How are you going to illuminate the black box of your own future classroom? What specific tools will you use to understand the dynamic ecosystem of your students? I am absolutely thrilled for you, and I can't wait to see the incredible research you're going to conduct. Good luck out there.